really do need to just focus on the kids. And when the kids, I think, become the center of what you're doing, then you're just worried about co-parenting and that's your only focus, is when you're going to start thriving. The kids will start thriving.
Right. That's kind of like that take the me out of it that we talked about previously. Welcome to Beautiful Chaos. This episode is number 4, Intro to Parenting Through Divorce and Blended Families. I'm Tammy Ramsey.
I'm Stacy Miller.
And here we go. Hang on to yourself here because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff going on.
Yep.
And I do want to talk about that we're very authentic here. We do cue cards that we kind of want to touch on a few topics to make sure that we're helping everyone and share experiences that we feel have helped us.
Right.
But we get an idea of what we want to do and then we don't discuss it. We wait till we're here in front of you. So this is real.
A nice, authentic conversation.
Yeah. So here we go. So we need to start off with the importance of co-parenting through divorce. I think that's the biggest thing that we want to talk about, and the patients, how important communication is and respecting each other and all the things, because divorce is hard.
Well, and I think before we get to that part, we should just talk about where we came from and what our backgrounds are.
Right.
So for me, I got married at the first time at 21, had 2 kids right out the gate. And then when they were 3 and 5 is when I got divorced. So I've been co-parenting with their dad for 15-ish, 18 years now. So we've made it through to the end, which I think is important. That's so I can kind of talk about all of the transitions, but also at some point through that, their dad had another marriage. So there was co-parenting with another parent as well. And I got remarried. There was a little bit of co-parenting there. So a little bit of all sides. And then for you?
But pretty similar, although this is my 3rd marriage. So my first one, we didn't have any kids, which was a really good thing. The second one, I had a daughter, and I think we got divorced when she was 5. And then that was when I met Kevin, and then he had a daughter. And so we were co-parenting on both sides of that triangle. And then and that happened until, they were 18. Well, still to this day, I guess, because you're not really parenting them, but we're still blended as a family, which we're going to talk about too.
Yep.
So I think that, like, some of the things that I really wanted to hit on was how divorce affects kids and how we can help them through it. And I understand, like, that divorce itself, sometimes you feel like you can't help yourself through it. And so counseling, I'm a big advocate for counseling.
Yep.
Find a therapist, even if it's a school counselor, somebody that can help you and help your kids through divorce. Right?
Yeah, I think the kids are the most important part. And I think the big transition point for me was when somebody told me that if you're still struggling trying to figure out how to co-parent with the other person, maybe you're struggling with feelings for that person themselves. And that allowed me to shift and refocus and realize that no, this hasn't nothing to do with my emotions with that person. That's in the past. We really do need to just focus on the kids. And when the kids, I think, become the center of what you're doing, then you're just worried about co-parenting and that's your only focus, is when you're going to start thriving. The kids will start thriving.
Right. That's kind of like that take the me out of it that we talked about previously is, if you're not focused on you and your feelings, and you're focused on your kids, then that's where your mind needs to be. And I think that's where it's also very good thing to remember that kids understand what's being said on a phone.
Right.
Kids understand tone. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's very important to keep your feelings about your spouse separate from your kids. Try not to speak ill of your ex.
Right.
Because I mean, it is like a death too. A marriage is like a death of a union, right? And
Right.
and you have to kind of work through all of that. But they say don't speak ill of the dead, so I say the same thing with don't speak ill of your ex.
Yeah.
Let your kids have that relationship with them that they need to make them stronger adults.
Yeah, and they'll develop their own opinions on their own,
Right.
no matter what we do or say about it. And we don't want their opinions to be because of something that we told them or how we molded that opinion. But I think one of the things that we've talked about in the past that becomes really applicable in this conversation is the idea of flipping the script, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Right.
So you can think about that in two different ways. Because again, we can stay really me focused and how I want to raise my kids and how I want them to behave and how I want them to be. Or what does their dad want best for them? And where is his mindset on what's healthy for these kids? And where does that mindset come from? Because at one point you were on the same page with this person and
Right.
you knew how they were raised and kind of what drove their morals and their ethics. But even more importantly, put yourselves in the position of your littles.
Yeah.
Because I think it's hard to wrap your brain around what it might be like at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And now you have to live in two different places and you have to uproot yourself every few days. Or your favorite stuffy is at one house and your favorite game is at the other house. Or, anything that, kids need safety, security, schedules, stability.
Mm-hmm.
And we're shaking all that up with divorce because now they're different schedules, different expectations, different rules, different chores,
right,
different bedroom. You wake up in the middle of the night in a hotel and you forget where you are for just a second. So imagine that transition of now waking up in a different bedroom every few days,
yeah,
and having to remind yourself that you're still safe, you're with your mom, you're with your dad.
Yeah, and I think so. I also came from a divorced family, and I felt like it was almost like I had two different personas. Mm-hmm. When I was at my dad's house, I had to be on best behavior and kind of a little more prim and proper, even around my grandparents on my dad's side. Like there was just this different expectation. Mm-hmm. I felt that I put on myself. I don't think anybody else put it on me, but I put it on myself.
Yeah.
And then I would go to my mom's, and my mom was just kind of laid back. Like that whole side of the family, we're kind of hillbillies, so it was very laid back and relaxed. And I just was totally 100% myself, mm-hmm. and was open and honest. Well, I was open and honest with both my parents, but I want to talk about supporting each other too. And I just want to give a quick little thing about, because this made me think about my childhood and parenting. Mm-hmm. I love my parents. They set a very great example on divorce, because when my mom and I would be having an argument, usually it's something I want to get my way on, and I thought she was wrong. And my mom would say, well, yeah, go ahead, call your dad, because I'm going to call my dad. I'm going to tell my dad. And I would call my dad, and my dad would listen to me very patiently. And then he would say, let me talk to your mom. And then he'd get on the phone with my mom, and they'd have a conversation in the other room. And then come back, and my mom would say, here, your dad wants to talk to you. And then he would agree with everything she had said.
Right.
So I think that supporting each other as parents, because mm-hmm. even though you're divorcing that person, you still have to parent with that person for the rest of your kids' lives.
Right. That whole idea of at 18,
you're done
and you can check out is 100% not true.
It becomes different.
It's very different.
But you're still involved as a parent, and you still, because they're still going to make some poor choices in life probably, and come to you asking for advice or whatever, and that's when you still need to parent together,
right?
In a sense, and talk about it. So let's go to how did you blend your families? Because what types of things did you do that made your kids feel very confident about, like, your ex-husband's new marriage?
So I think that's a great example, actually, because I think when you introduce a new parent, it can be very confusing for everybody. It can be confusing for mom and dad, but it could also be confusing for the kids. So we definitely had some rough times with feeling like mom was being replaced by a new mom, or not knowing where everyone's roles were when it came to the kids, because they saw this new person taking on a new role. And so what does that really mean? And so I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that every day was super easy and that we just transitioned really smooth. There was definitely some really, really rough times. However, once I was able to realize that everybody brings something different to the table, then it became, how do I like keep feeding on all these good things?
Right.
And I think that was a big change for us. And so I'll just tell you a quick story. I'm not a very girly girl. I'm not, makeup, hair, things like that. It's not my thing. So one day my daughter comes home from being at her dad's house and her hair is in this beautiful French braid. And I was livid because how dare somebody know how to do something better than I do, because I have no idea how to I still can't French braid hair. And it made my daughter so happy that her hair was French braided. So of course I had to bite my tongue and go, "Oh, your hair's so pretty. You look so pretty." And inside I'm just seething with jealousy and anger.
Yeah.
And I think when you recognize it's jealousy is when you can hurry and quick check yourself and realize this isn't your fight to fight. I'm not going to call and complain that somebody was
French braiding my daughter's hair.
Yeah. Doing something nice for my daughter.
Yeah.
And again, rough times aside, how that transitioned was, hey, we've got one mom that's really good at X, Y, and Z, and we've got one mom who's really good at all these other things. So my daughter did a few pageants when she was younger, and I did the shopping, and I did the registration, and I went to the practices and helped with the choreography. And when it came time for the show, I passed her off to the other mom, and that mom did her hair and did her makeup and got her ready, and then stayed downstairs to change her hair out from one part of the performance to the other. And I got to sit in the audience and enjoy it, because I did my part, and now the other parent was playing to their strengths and doing their part. And so you just kind of realize where everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and learn to just really be grateful and thankful for what everybody can bring to the table for your kids. It's all going to make your kids better somehow, is to have more and more people in their life that love them. More people to love your kids is never going to be a bad thing.
Never a bad thing. And I think that that's very open of you. Like, and that's the way we are too. Like, you just need to be open and to all things, and understand that everybody does have a role, and everybody does have something to give. And I think that it's important to recognize that a lot of the things that drive you crazy or hurt your feelings, or the feelings that you have, if you name them, then that's the big thing. Name it. Like she named hers. It's jealousy. I mean, I went through that too. There was some jealousy moments, and I had to do the same thing. No, that's just me being jealous, and I should be grateful because, well, my ex-husband, he didn't have a marriage, but he had a couple of girlfriends, and one I actually just loved and adored, because same thing. She was very played games with my daughter and just really took really good care of my daughter, and so I was always grateful for that. And he's remarried now, and I just love her to pieces, and she's very thoughtful and does very thoughtful things, and I'm not. Like, I'm the nitty gritty. I'll talk to you about emotions, and I'll be there for you, and I'll support you and all of the things. But I'm not like one of those, thoughtful gift giver type persons. But anyways, one of the things that we focused on was, again, recognizing that everyone has something to give and put into the pot. And that we always said, these are bonus parents, right? Yeah. You have bonus parents. That's what it is. Right. And like you said, the more people that can love your kids, the better off you all are. Right. They become more well-rounded with that kind of representation from people in your life.
Well, and just think about the way that it could be if you continue to feed into the opposite version of that, which is jealousy, and dad has this dumb girlfriend, and the girlfriend's never helpful with this, or the stepdad never does these things, or every time they go over there, all they do is sit around and watch movies, and whatever the argument might be. versus, wow, they get some downtime when they go to dad's, and that's so
Yes.
helpful for them to just unwind for a little while. Or, I don't like X, Y, and Z about this person, but I do like these other things, and that's great. And so changing that narrative so that what's coming out of your mouth, especially in front of your kids, and
Yes.
even not, because the more you continue to have that positive thinking and that positive feedback
thinking,
right,
yeah,
the more you're going to change your own perception, and also just change that tension that the children could be feeling, because no matter what, they're feeling tension either way. There's been a huge change and a huge transition in their life.
right.
So the more positive that we can make it, the better. I'll tell a couple of little side stories of my kid's stepmom has since gotten remarried. We were all at the wedding. Me, my kids all sat at a table together and enjoyed her wedding. When we were all still young in all of this, we all went on a family vacation together, because another thing that multiple parents bring to the table is that we can all share the funds on something, and it made a couple of single parents Disneyland budget look a lot more attainable when you can get 6 or 8 people sharing an Airbnb and sharing the prices of, hey, you buy them lunch and then I'll buy them dinner, and then you get them a souvenir and I'll get them the next one, and it splits everything a little in half and makes your trip a little cheaper. But it also made the trip, that people always laugh about the trip where everybody went together, all the exes and all the new spouses and all the everybody. But it really was a great time, because it could either be I took older kids off to ride older kids ride, and he had younger kids doing younger kid rides, and then swapped, and it was a great time, and the kids will never forget it. And having grown children now who are trying to plan weddings, and knowing that they're never going to have to choose whether or not mom can come to the reception and dad can come to the ceremony, or mom will come to this one wedding and dad will go to the other wedding. They'll never have to choose that. We're all going to just be there and support our kids together and hang out together, and very grateful.
And that's a way to show your love. I mean, because we always did all birthday parties together.
Yep.
We do all celebrations together, and this is all of us. And I'm pretty much like best friends with my husband's ex-wife. Like, we're just get along
She's
so
lovely.
well. She's lovely. We love her. And her and I are a lot alike. We always tease and say my husband has a type. So she could do her own podcast. But anyway, she's just a hoot. And it wasn't always that way at all. But we chose to focus on the well-being of the kids, and we chose love over all things, and inclusion, to be inclusive and to get her, because I actually wanted to do a vacation with Trishelle and the family, and Brandy and the family, and all of us were on board. The grandkids said, well, that would be kind of weird, even though we do everything together.
Right.
Like, it's a rare occasion that family is visiting our oldest daughter, and we're not over there doing something at some point, having dinner, playing games, whatever it is.
Well, I think it's important too to point out that none of this happened overnight. I mean, we can say that it was hard and there was rough patches, and obviously we're not going to get into all of the nitty gritty of
details.
Yeah, because I'm sure, I don't know about you, but I'm sure I was plenty ugly for plenty of times in the process, because it's not easy. You just want to be with your kids, and you want to love your kids, and you want the best for your kids. And it all comes from that love and that heart, but it can get ugly and it can get dirty and nasty. But I know one topic that you really wanted to make sure that we hit on, that I think is the first building block of making sure that these major changes happen appropriately, is the little things that you can do at transition time. So transition time being when kids come from dad's house to mom's house, what's the first few things that you do to move that thinking over to your new household and make it feel comfortable, and vice versa when they go back to dad? So go ahead and say what you want to say about that.
So we always, Sunday night was always our family dinner game night. I mean, most nights we when we were home and not chasing kids, we would always have dinner at the table. But Sunday night was usually the return night. So Sunday night, we always had a meal around the table. We talked about how fun was your weekend or your week, with your other parents, and what all did you do, and kind of, discussed and enjoyed conversation. And then we would play games. We were like big into board games, and so we would play a board game or Uno, whatever, and just cut up and have a good time, kind of like reconnect.
Yeah.
And then I think that reconnection and the acceptance of, I'm accepting that you went and had a fabulous weekend, even if it was just sitting and watching movies and you had downtime. You enjoyed that, and that's just great that you got that opportunity to do that. Right. Having that talk with them to make them feel like at ease that whatever they went and experienced was totally great. Yeah. And that we're 100%
no animosity.
Right.
No judgment.
No jealousy. No, if they went to an adventure park, I was a little jealous, but
then it's time for mom to plan something fun.
Yeah. I gotta plan
but
something
without
fun.
making it feel like a competition.
Right.
You want to have good times with your kids, but it's all in how you react to those things, because they might say, oh, Tad was grumpy the whole time I was there, and he ignored us, and we didn't do anything. Oh, well, I'm glad you had some downtime, and I'm glad you were able to, catch up on some TV shows or movies or read your book or whatever you were able to do. I'm sorry if Dad was busy or, whatever, however you can acknowledge that it's still okay. Whatever experience they had, it's okay. We support you. Let's have a good time. You're home now. Reconnect, regroup, start fresh. I think when we don't put ourselves in their little tiny shoes, we forget that can't be easy to just jump back into a whole new household.
Right.
And just, okay, go to your room, get ready for bed, get up, go to school tomorrow, have a good day. They need a minute.
Time to.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think it's important when it comes to jealousy too, to remember that kids need certain things to keep them feeling connected and feeling safe. If they decide that there is a certain outfit they really love and they want to bring it back and forth, or a toy that they love and they want to be able to have it every night and not just the nights they're at your house, make sure that you're encouraging that they can bring things back and forth, because if that one connection helps remind them that no matter where they are, they're safe. Yeah. I think that's really helpful. So think about those types of things when it comes to your transition times with your kids and what can help them. And if it means taking something that you might not see back right away, or hopefully they bring it back and forth or something along those lines, if it helps their little hearts feel better, feel safer, then that's what really matters in the end.
Well, and that's like, love not the world, neither the things that are of the world. Don't love the things. You love the people. And so that's where your focus is, on your kids, whatever makes them happy that they should do. Right. So the other thing about blending families is to make sure that you respect each other, treat each other with respect in front of the kids, like we said. Right. Acknowledge roles, that she's just as important as me. She's your bonus mom. I never liked really stepmom. Yeah. I like bonus mom better, but so all of those things, and make all those things a positive. Like the other thing was Christmases. So Ashley's dad lived a couple of hours away, so we were very flexible with time. It's like, okay, we'll do Christmas morning, and then we'll drive down and meet you halfway, and you do Christmas night, and whatever. We always work together, and we're very flexible about all of that. If we didn't spend it together, and most of the time with him we didn't. Sometimes we do with the Brandy's, with Trishell's mom, but the important thing is to be encouraging that happens as well, and that you're willing to allow that time to happen. It's not all about your time and what works for you. It's about what works for your child, what works for them to build and have a steady relationship with them. Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, the calendar and what numbers on it doesn't matter. Right. And I know that can be really hard, especially the younger the kids are, or if let's say the other parent plans a trip, just let them go on the trip, because the kids are going to enjoy the trip. And if it means that you postpone Easter, or you postpone Christmas, or you postpone a birthday, that's just more times that child gets to celebrate that holiday.
Right.
And you make it happen whenever. I think that's been even more real to me the last few years of working as a 911 dispatcher, because I work many holidays, and my family thankfully has been very accepting of the fact that sometimes we just have to pick a different day. Right. Or, throw a dart at the calendar and figure it out, but we'll pick another day, and that's Christmas, or that's New Year's, or that's Thanksgiving, or whatever holiday is it that we want to celebrate. But just remember, it's just a day, and the memories the kids can't get back. So if they can make a great memory at the other family's house, or then next time they're going to make a great memory on a certain date at your house, then they'll figure out how to make it different on a different day with the other family, and it all works out in the end.
And that's a bonus thing too, because sometimes if the bonus thing is that you get to celebrate Christmas twice as a kid. I got all holidays
or twice. You get a few extra days to get those presents wrapped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. I was there. There you go.
Enjoy the little things.
So I think that we've kind of touched on everything that we wanted to talk about. Maybe our biggest thing is to be open.
Yeah.
Be inclusive.
Right.
Choose love, and that's a choice.
Right.
And life is not easy, and roads are not easy to travel. Right. And you're going to start off and you're going to have a lot of bumps in the road, but you need to have that above and below the line thought.
Right.
And realize where you are. Name your emotion you're feeling, because if it is jealousy, boy, the ugly head of jealousy.
Yeah.
If it's envy.
Right.
There's all those things that you could name and realize it's not worth what you're feeling, and to choose to love and come from a place of gratitude for whatever people are offering in your life.
Right. Whatever it is that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And I think another important closing is to say that, always remember to put yourself in your kids' shoes. And imagine what that would be like. We go home to the same house every night. They're going home to a different house every night with different things, different everything. So remember to put yourself in their shoes and what they might be feeling and what they might be thinking. And then I think if we want to move on to the challenge, I think the challenge is really great, because one of the things we want to challenge you is, so we talked about playing on others' strengths and recognizing what their strengths are. But how about get out a piece of paper and write it down?
Yes.
Write down 3 things about your ex-spouse that you think that they do really well when it comes to parenting, right?
Right.
But you could also write down 3 things about your ex-spouse's
new spouse.
Right? And what are they bringing to the table, and how are they loving your kids, and what can they do for them?
Right. Because if we come from a place of gratitude, that's your first step to acceptance. Mm-hmm. That's your first step to opening your heart to loving that person.
Right.
And allowing yourself to love them.
Yeah. And it changes the narrative in your head. So now your kids, instead of hearing the negative, they're hearing how dad's really good at fixing the car, and how dad's wife is really good at baking that cake, or whatever it is that you're going to keep that narrative going in your thoughts and mind. So big challenge to kind of write those things down and start using that as a tool to change your narrative and what your kids are hearing.
Yeah, and hopefully we're giving you some tools for your toolbox.
Yeah.
In all of these episodes. And if you have felt like you've picked up a tool for your toolbox, then comment. We have fan mail on our Buzzsprout website, which is beautifulchaos1 buzzsprout.com. So you can leave fan mail there and let us know what you think about the podcast, or any things that you think we need to be different. We're open for suggestions.
And I think I just want to end with one last comment, because I think it's easy for us with adult children to walk away from this and say, hey, there was rough times, but we made it and everybody's doing great, and we did all these things really, really well. It wasn't always well. It wasn't always great. Yeah. And I think Tammy talked about it at the very beginning, and let's talk about it at the very end. when it's not great and you've done what you can, you've tried what you've tried and it's not working, therapy's wonderful.
Therapy, yes, 100%.
And yeah, I can't get behind that enough. And like she said, find it wherever you can. Therapy through your church, counselors at school, through your job might have a therapy option. But whatever it is, and it doesn't mean you're in therapy for the rest of your life. If you are, great. The more therapy, the better, in my opinion. But maybe for us, we had to go through short stints of therapy. There was one specific issue we couldn't overcome. We did a little bit of therapy that gave us, like you said, the tools in your toolbox. Right. That was kind of a trigger word for me to remember that a lot of the tools that are in my toolbox didn't come just because we had trial and error. It came because we had some therapy that got us through a lot of these things. So big fan of therapy.
Yeah, and I still go, like every, I don't know, maybe once or twice a year, I'll go talk to my counselor just to make sure that I'm, where I need to be, and kind of like a checkup. I got to check all my tools.
Yep, we got to check those tools.
Check those tools. So our next episode is going to be, are we going to do date night or the American Falls?
I guess you'll have to wait and see. So stay tuned and keep commenting, keep liking and sharing this podcast. And until then, stay empowered.